All right, let's get started. Okay, everyone, welcome to BiblioEvents Basics for BiblioWeb Libraries. So exciting. Yes, this agenda is long. Don't worry, we're going to cover it all today. So here we go. Um, Actually, I'm gonna even segue off my own agenda to start. How about that? We're just gonna go a little rogue today. So this is what BiblioEvents looks like from the patron perspective. This is Chicago Public Library's events instance, and you can see we have some different filters along the left-hand side here, like date, where the event is being held. Patrons can select the audience. They can select the event types that they're interested in, like computers and technology, crafts and games. You'll also see something called a program type. A couple of call outs here. We've got Black History, Disability Pride, Maker Lab. So these tend to be a little more seasonal or timely or short-lived programs. So that's what program means. And then you'll also see language as well. So patrons can click through all of these different filters. For example, I'll click on art, movie, and performances. Now you can see all of the different art movies we have. They sort by date order, of course. When patrons click on the event, it's going to take them to the event details page. Now, this is actually going to get a facelift. I haven't heard of a timeline exactly, but I think we're going to ditch this gray background so it matches a little bit more of the previous screen. So yes, facelift coming for this one, but you can see it includes event information. When is it? Where is it? Folks can add it to their calendar. They can see the event description here. Contact information would be like the department or person that's hosting it. If the event had registration, this one doesn't. You'd also see the register now. Then we have a section for the location as well. So the map, phone number, all of that information. So that's what it basically looks like from the patron perspective. Let me see if I can find one with registration real quick. Here's one, registration required. And that's what registration looks like. This one's a little unusual because they're asking folks to call the library, but patrons can actually register right through the website. And when I demo today, I'll show you what that looks like. That's basically what it looks like in a nutshell. So what this slide talks about is how the different products of BiblioCommons ultimately integrate with each other. So you're going to see the same shared header across catalog, across events, across the website. So you'll always have the header right there. Some libraries call it events, some call it programs. You'll see they usually all have the little calendar icon. So that's just what this is. Patrons can search the search dropdown for upcoming events too. So patrons, if they're looking for story time or book club, can change the search dropdown to events, typey what they're looking for, and they'll see it. Like I said, this is kind of the event details page, includes all of that kind of need it now information that patrons are always looking for. Oh, and my slides are freezing because it's Friday. That's how it goes, right? The other thing is BiblioEvents is mobile responsive too. So you don't have to do anything extra with the events. You just have to put them into BiblioEvents. We take care of the responsive design for you, which is great. I covered the event details page. So this slide just kind of does a quick call out for, what registration looks like, all those fun little features. Now, I do have a couple of best practices for you just to kind of tuck away in the back of your mind as you're thinking through what this is going to look like for your library. We do recommend coming up with some kind of consistent featured image strategy. For example, Chicago has like a cute little owl, so you'll see little owls everywhere. Harris County Public Library, I'll show you what they look like. So you can kind of see there's usually some kind of look and feel with different event libraries. Like here's their graphics, for example. So pretty consistent for the most part. So come up with some kind of image strategy. I also have keeping track of a style guide, y'all are going to make some decisions like what audiences are you going to have? What event types are you going to have? What kind of program types are you going to have? How do we want to capitalize certain things? What are our descriptions going to look like? Do we have a certain way that we want our story times to be written? So whatever it is, keep a style guide. That way you can, reference it if you need to. One of the cool features that I'll show a little bit later is how to add a title to upcoming events. So in the screenshot for book clubs, you can see The Still Life by Louise Penny. This is an integration between BiblioCore, the catalog, and BiblioEvents. So it's just a nice feature. It helps showcase your collection. And then, fill out as much of the event information as you can. Patrons are always looking for details. So the couple of best practices there. Now, we do try and make sure that patrons can see all of the event information up front. So a couple of things that you might notice as you peek at other libraries, you may have noticed Chicago had an event that had a light gray background. That's a featured event. You can have one featured event at a time. You can select multiple events to be featured, but only one shows up at the top of the feed. Once that event expires, then the next featured event will show up. So some libraries think through what that thought process is. How do we decide what's featured? You'll see little labels for events that are in progress. So here's an example of that. Up at the top of the events feed, there's a toggle to turn on and off the featured events. You can hide events. There's also a print option and an RSS feed. Here's what some of the registration looks like. If registration is full, we have a waitlist option. You can actually choose to have registration close at a certain day and time. You can have registration open at a certain day and time. There's an example of a canceled event on the right. Here's an example of an event that had registration closed before the event began. Here's registration required. So we're really trying to think of all the different options that you might need for registration. So I think we'll just kind of skip ahead a little bit to a new feature that we have called My Events. This is something I want to say, put into preview last fall, if I remember correctly. It is now live for libraries. And what this does is work through the integration that we have with BiblioCore, the catalog, and BiblioEvents. My Events basically lets patrons see or manage the events that they have registered for if when they sign up for an event, they are logged into their BiblioCore catalog. So that's really cool because sometimes it's hard for staff to, manage patron registration, or patrons might be like, I can't remember if I signed up for it. So this is supposed to help with that common problem that we see at libraries. So when a patron is logged into the catalog, they can click on their account and they'll see a new link that says My Events. Some libraries have been adding it to their navigation to make it really easy for patrons to see what events they have registered for. Patrons can see events that they've registered for, are on the waitlist for, or events that have been canceled. It'll also keep track of past events that they have attended. It is easy to see on desktop. It's responsive for tablet and mobile. So wherever a patron is, they can check this out. From here, the other cool thing is patrons can cancel or update their registration. So here's an example of what it looks like to cancel registration.
Sorry, can I pause you?
Yeah.
One of my colleagues is trying to get in, and if you could see if
yes, thank you. I didn't even notice. Perfect. Cool. You're welcome. So yeah, that's what My Events does, is helps kind of put some of that back into the patron's hands if they, want to kind of maintain or manage their own registration. So cool new feature. If you want to learn more about it, which I expect you will at some point post-training, I've linked the documentation there too. Now, a real quick overview. We'll talk just briefly about the location pages. Location pages are important because we know patrons want to know what your hours are, what your address is. Do you have a meeting room? So the location pages also show up on BiblioEvents, for example. So if I go back to Chicago's events, you can see like Harold Washington Library Center. This is a clickable link. it takes patrons to the location page. A lot of libraries feature upcoming events on the location page. It includes holidays and closures. It includes relevant information about the library, like, this library has a bike rack and a scanner and study rooms. This one also has homework help or parking info or accessibility information. So this can be totally customized. So yeah, that's what the location page looks like. And so patrons can get to it by clicking on the location and events, but it's also available in the upper right-hand corner of every page. The catalog, events, the web pages, it just says hours and locations. They can type in a zip code or an address and they can find it, or they can click on see all locations to see the upcoming locations. Now, just for fun / inspiration, I've included a couple of location pages examples here if you want to kind of see how libraries have done a little customization for those. But the big thing we want to look at is, oh, I'm logged out. The big thing we want to look at is your location pages. So I'm going to log in here to your instance, and I'll just kind of run you through it, real quick overview of your own location pages. So up here, when you click on admin, you'll see a locations drop down. And I should preface this by saying, perhaps not everyone will have access to location admins, the location admin permission. That's something Julian, I expect, will kind of think through, talk about who needs all the permissions for all the different things we're going to talk about today. But just so y'all can kind of see it, here's the back end for locations admin. Your branches are listed here. I see them filled out already. Fabulous. You click on edit. You can include an image, address, description information, phone number. Here's the map. This is where hours are set. If there's something like a location alert, like, the Wi-Fi is down, your elevator is broken, the air conditioner is busted, that's what the location alert is for. Facilities is a list that you basically can build from scratch, and then you can check off what's relevant at each branch. So maybe not every branch has a seed library, but this one does. Features are things that are unique to a branch, like this one has the Swift Art Gallery. If you want to include directional information, you can put it here. If there's parking information you want to include, pop it in there. Meeting room information. Some libraries add meeting room info here. Others build a more custom page that really goes into like the policies about meeting rooms, things like that. And then there's also this accessibility section. So do you have assistive devices? Do you have an elevator? Whatever it may be, you can put it there. So that's the location page in a nutshell. I'll hit back. The other thing just to kind of know, is closures. So this is where you can put in different holidays. We could do the 4th of July as an example. Oops, so we'll type in 4th of July. The name of the holiday closure is patron facing, so make sure it makes sense. Then you just pick out the date. So here's the 4th of July. You can choose what the closure is. Is it a full day closure? In this case, yes. But you also see opens late or closes early. Some libraries will do this when they have weather closures or things like that. Some libraries will use special hours if they have like an all staff kind of thing. So you have lots of options. Then you can also choose where the closure is happening. Is it at all locations? If you uncheck it, then you can choose individual branches. So that's where you can put in closures. And then those facilities that we saw, those are added here underneath the facility type. So yeah, that's a little spiel about the location pages. Any questions about locations before we tackle BiblioEvents now?
I have a real, this betrays my some lack of understanding on how all of this is working, but I guess this is for Julian. Will branches have access to the location side of things, or will this be just where CMD gets to make these decisions and passing on closure information?
So, at least in my understanding, and Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, or Virginia as well, it usually is CMD's responsibility and ability to make those changes. So the branches wouldn't have access to it at this point, but they would obviously let us know when they need.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's correct. That's how it is now. We would make changes on both the website and the calendar platform, since they're really not as integrated now.
Well, I saw 2 thumbs up for you. Awesome. Okay. Well, then let's dive into what we're really here for today, which is BiblioEvents. So to get into BiblioEvents, you need a BiblioCore account. So this is, when I say BiblioCore, I'm referring to the catalog. So I know Julian will work with y'all about how we're going to get access to folks, who needs different levels of access, things like that. But you'll see the word admin here once you're logged into BiblioCore. You click on events and it takes you to the events dashboard. So I'm logged in with the highest level of permissions here, so I can do all of the things today. But for the most part, this is what it's going to look like for staff too. Staff who, for example, they'll only have the ability to create events are not going to see creating a template or the event settings. We reserve some of this for the higher permissions, but like I said, since I got to show you all the things today, I'm logged in with all the power. So this is the dashboard. Now, a couple of things here. We have manage event settings. This is where you're going to fill out the different event types, audiences, programs, languages. Locations are offsite locations, for example, like let's say you have an event at like the local brewery or something like that. So for example, I've added a couple in here just to prepare us for training. So what I have is the audiences of adults, kids, and teens. It's very straightforward to add a new audience, for example. You just type it in. There's a little toggle here that says mark as hidden. So if you were going to, no longer use the adult audience, you could click on edit, click on the toggle, and it would hide it. For something like the event types, these actually have an image associated with them. So you would click on add new type, fill out the event type name, and then you can add an image. We are changing what the image resolution is going to be. I don't know what it is yet, so I would say don't worry about it at the moment. I will demo a little bit on a separate training site that has images though, so you can kind of see what that's going to look like. And then I was just seeing there's something in the chat. Okay, cool. I'll let y'all read that. So yeah, so here's where you kind of control these terms, the terms that patrons can use to filter by their own interests or their audiences. So that's one setting to chat through. And then let's look at the dashboard as a whole. So create events going to allow you to create an upcoming event. For folks who have higher permissions, you can build templates. The templates basically include the event title, the description, the audience. So that way it can save staff a little bit of time. It can also help you sort of set the standard that you might want for particular kinds of events, like story times, for example. Now, since I'm logged in with the high permissions, I can toggle between events, and I don't have any templates in here, but if we had templates, we would see them on the template toggle. Now, back on the events toggle, you'll also see 4 tabs here: new/revised, awaiting publication, published, and archived. So new/revised is for events that have been saved as drafts. So these are unpublished events. Published events that have been edited but have not been republished with the edits will also appear in this queue, and they'll have a little updated tag beside them. So this will kind of get into some permissioning or kind of workflows for y'all to think about. Some libraries do a workflow where staff create events, but then they need to be reviewed before they are published. So they'll use a permission called the reviewer use a permission called the reviewer permission, and that reviewer can mark an event as updated or like ready for publication. So it's optional, you don't have to do it, but that's kind of what this tab is meant to help with. The awaiting publication tab would be in that kind of same vein, where if you're not going to allow staff to publish their own events, then somebody has to review them and then publish them for that staff member. That's what this awaiting publication tab would be for, is for events that have been given the thumbs up that they're ready to be published. Now the Publish tab would then show events that have been published. These are the events for the patrons. Patrons can see these events. And then we have the Archive tab. So any events that have passed, the event is over, they're going to show up in the Archive tab. Now, in terms of data retention, we keep archived events for 24 months. So what some libraries do is once a quarter, they might export events, or, every 6 months or once a year, depending on what the city, state, county, province, whoever's asking for data, might require. And you'll also see some different filters down here. Location allows you to filter events by location. Program allows you to filter by different program types. Same with event types, same with audience. So let's say you had to report, all of the kids' summer reading events that you did. You could set the audience to kids, the program type to summer reading, and then you could just export those events. You'll also see the date if you need to put in dates. You can search by title. And there's a couple of toggles here too for online events, canceled events, or featured events. On the Publish tab, you might have noticed the waitlist action required. I'll come back to that. And then there's also a toggle here that says only my events. This is helpful when you have a lot of event creators who maybe just want to see their own events that they've created, and they can click on this toggle. So that's basically the dashboard. Any questions about this?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, what you got?
If is there going to be available if a staff member does change their event, that it goes back to
Yes.
saying that it's updated?
Yeah, I'll on the training site, I'll actually do a demo of what that kind of reviewer permission-y workflow looks like, so you can actually see it. It's a lot easier to see it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's make a couple of events here so y'all can kind of just see what the workflow looks like. First event I'm going to do is just a single event, no registration. You'd click on Create Event, and this brings up the event interface. And it's pretty straightforward. All events need a title. We have to figure out what type of event it is. Who's our different audience? Is it a program? If we had images uploaded, they would show here. You can put in your event description. Here's the contact information, registration information, staff notes. This is internal. So some libraries use this to leave staff notes like, teen volunteer Becky is going to help out today, or, the projector is broken. Totally up to you, optional. Patrons never see this section. And then up here, we have the date and time picker, and then we have the location information. So let's run through a single drop-in event. We'll just do knitting for beginners. My event type for this one, we'll call it crafts. So event type is required. Program type is not. So you can see, nothing really jives here with knitting for beginners. So we'll just set it to crafts. Audience, let's say this one's for adults and for teens. So you can add multiple audiences. You can also add multiple event types. In this case, we don't need to. Crafts works. And then we can put in our event description. So whatever your event description ends up being. And you can see you have some editing options here. Do you need to bold your text? Do you need to put in bullet points? Are you linking out to, the local yarn store? So you got some options here in the description field. Now this event I said doesn't have registration, so I'm just going to leave the toggle set to no registration required. And then I'll pick my day and time. So let's say that knitting for beginners is just a one-off, so I'm going to leave the event dropdown set to once. Then I can pick my day, so let's say May 13th, pick my time, let's do it in the evening, 6:30 to 8:30. And you'll see these are in 15-minute increments. So I've got that set, and then I choose the branch that it's happening. Let's say it's happening at the Ridgefield Community Library. And then in the location details is where I can put where the event is happening. So let's just say it's happening in meeting room A. And now I've got my event filled out, and I can either save it as a draft, or because today I'm logged in with all the permissions, you can see I have the ability to publish. So I'm going to publish these events so y'all can see what it looks like for patrons. So,
And
ta-da, here's
uh,
submitting for beginners. Yeah, what you got?
so can you talk a little bit about the libcal integration?
I sure can.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so any questions about that one? So far, so good? Okay, cool. Now, for the libcal integration, I'm going to log into the training site for this one because this one's got it set up. So I know that's in progress for y'all. So let's do an event that is one that requires registration and a room booking. So I'm going to click on events, and I'm going to click on create event. And let's do another crafty event. Let's do watercolor 101. So you can see I've got my title filled out. We'll pick out my event type. So this one's much more robustly filled out. I'm going to choose crafts and DIY. You can see an image is automatically loading with this one because I've built it that way. We'll pick out our audiences. Let's say it's for adults and teens and older adults. We'll pick our day again. Let's say May 12th. We'll do another evening class. Let's go 5:30 to 6:30. We'll pick out our location. Now, this library has the libcal integration. So once we get that set up for the branches that are going to have libcal, they'll see a little gray box here that says, you can pick your libcal stuff after we finish filling out the rest of the event. So let's say that this is going to happen in meeting room A. We'll fill out our description. And then let's do no registration with this one again. We'll come back to registration. So we've got our event filled out here. I'm going to click on save. And what this does is now give me a pop-up thing. Not really a pop-up, a new button for us that says, would you like to book a room for this event? I click on book room, and then it's going to give me a drop down. So I picked the Ballard branch. Here's the meeting room spaces, the Ballard branch. So let's say it's going to be in the large meeting room. And then if I need to add setup or teardown time, I can. I'm going to do it from here. So what this does is it books the libcal room with that extra spacing, but it doesn't change the time of the event for patrons. Patrons are still going to see this event at 5:30 to 6:30. But if I need that 30-minute setup and teardown, then libcal is going to book the room from 5 to 7. And then it's going to ask who's booking this. So you just fill out your information. Whoops, bibliocommons.com. And then you're going to click on check availability. So what this does is make sure there is no conflict with the room. So if it's good, like this one is, you'll see a green checkbox for available. If you see a conflict, it would say not available with a red X. And so some libraries will then say, okay, maybe I need to do 15 minutes setup or 0 minutes for the setup, or I need to change my day and time completely because, there's a board meeting in there that I didn't know about. So this will basically force you to check the availability, make sure you got that green checkbox, and then you click on request rooms. And now it says all available rooms have been successfully booked. You'll see a green checkbox there. Then I can click on close window. And now you'll see this is updated to say meeting room A has been booked for this event. I can click on save and publish if I'm ready to publish this event. So we'll do it for today. And yeah, I have booked that event. So what it looks like on the staff side is I click on the publish tab. I'm going to type in watercolor 101, and you can see meeting room A is listed there after the branch name. So that's a way that staff can see, okay, a room has been booked. Now, I think there will be questions because there's more we can talk about with libcal, but questions about that?
Okay, you're maybe going to start talking. You're going to talk about it, so I kind of hate to ask at this
No, go
moment.
ahead.
So are you going to talk about series and rooms?
Yeah, do you want to see a series example?
Yes, we have a lot where there's going to be a conflict in the middle of the series for a room.
Ooh, tricky.
That's actually one of our most issues.
Yes. What is your current publishing schedule? Like, is it like, do you publish things in like month by month increments? Because that's usually what I recommend for libraries, is to shorten the length of the series. So that way, if you do have to make changes, it's a little easier.
Oh, yes, we've gone to like a quarter, like just an example for summer, we're doing the June, July, and August. So
Gotcha.
you'll have a series. We're trying to cut down on the length of time,
Yeah. Yep.
which really helped, especially with registration also.
Totally.
So we're like for the fall, we'll do September, October, November, December.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
they'll work a series that way, but they may be weekly, and there may be 3 conflicts within that weekly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me do a series event, and then let me do a libcal kind of version of that. And then I also want to show you more about registration. So we'll kind of tackle all of those as we go. So I'm going to click on create an event, and let's do something like a story time then. So let's do baby story time. So we've got our title in, let's say, not books and reading. Let's say we have an event type called story time. Here we are for babies. Great. So let's say that baby story time is so popular that you decide to publish this event weekly. So baby story time is like Monday through Friday. So here I would change the drop down to daily. And then let's start it next week, May 12th through May 16th. We'll pick our day and time, or our time. Let's say baby story time is 9:30 to 10. You'll see something here called a calendar display. This is going to show up when you have events that have some kind of reoccurrence pattern. There's 2 options: separate entries for each day the event occurs, or a single entry for the duration of the event. For something like story time or like book clubs, things like that, I would choose separate entries for each day the event occurs. A single entry for the duration of the event is more useful for events like an art exhibit or like a contest or something like that. So more often than not, you're just going to leave it set to the default of separate entries. So we've got our daily reoccurrence pattern for next week. We'll fill out our cool description here. Cool description about baby story time. Oops, I cannot spell. Oh my goodness. Make sure you spell it right. So we've got our cool description in there. Let's do another libcal option. So I'll choose Ballard Branch again. And then before we tackle more of the libcal piece, let's look at registration. So for baby story time, maybe you have a limited number of capacity for kids. So you're going to set it to online registration. And then you're going to say, how many kiddos can you have at baby story time? Maybe you can have 15. So this is where you put in your event capacity. Below that, you're going to see maximum number of attendees that a patron can register. Think about this as group registration. Some libraries leave it set to the default of 10. Others have had patrons take advantage of that. So they might say, you know what, we're going to set our group registration to 5. So this is totally up to you, but think of that as group registration. Now, this event has multiple days associated with it because we chose next Monday through Friday. So here you're going to see an option for repeating event registration settings. For something like story time, it's probably likely that, a parent can't bring their kiddo every week or every day next week to story time. So we want patrons to require for the individual session that works for them. The other radio button is for the series. This would be more helpful if you had like Microsoft Word for beginners, a 4-week class. You want people to come to all the sessions. And then we have a registration start. So this is when you all get to choose when folks can register for the event. Upon publication means that the moment I publish this event, folks can register for it. But you'll also see some other options here, like, do you want people to be able to register for the event hours, days, weeks, or months in advance? You can even pick a specific day and time. Down below that, we have registration end. So when can patrons no longer register for the event? Some libraries will set this to, 30 minutes before the event to give them time to look at the registration list, or, maybe a patron has a last minute question. Up to you. There's also the option where you can have registration end at a particular day and time. For something like story time, to keep this pretty realistic, I would set it to registration begins upon publication, registration ends when the event begins. Questions about that? No? Okay, cool. Okay, so a little more about what we now see on the screen. This is something we haven't seen yet. There's something called the how to prepare and how to attend field. So whenever you enable registration for an event, if there's something you need to tell patrons ahead of time, like this spells it out for us. Is there something they need to do in advance? Do they have to bring something? You can put this information here. For story time, probably unlikely. But maybe you have like a STEAM event for kids and you want every kid to bring I don't know, a microwave that they're going to smash. I have no idea, but that's what the how to prepare field is. The how to attend field is more helpful for online events, so we'll come back to that. So we have our story time set up here. I'm going to click on save so we can do the LibCal booking. So now I'm going to click on book room. I'm going to pick out my my space. We'll just use the small meeting room for now. So meeting room B. If I wanted to put in my setup and teardown time, I could. We'll just skip it though for today. Oh my goodness. I can't even spell my name today. All right, so now I'm going to click on check availability. So a shorter series like this is usually a lot easier to manage because hopefully there's less conflict. But let's imagine we had set this up for like the entire month. This is where it gets a little tricky. So if I had booked this and one of these rooms was not available, I could still push through my LibCal reservations on the available one, but it would not, it wouldn't be able to book the non-available space. So what my libraries have done in that case is they will basically publish the event, but sometimes they'll go in and either exclude dates from the event so they can book a different space. That tends to be easy, or some of them will make notes of the conflict and then have the day and time pattern stop on the day of the conflict, and then they create a different version of the event. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is there's no way for you to be able to book, meeting room A for half of the events and meeting room B. You have to select one room and then adjust probably the reoccurrence pattern to get around it. I know that's a little confusing. So, questions?
Does it show you what it's in conflict with? Somehow, the report or something?
No, it will just say not available here. So what you'd have to do is log into the LibCal instance and go to the calendar and see what the conflict is.
Okay. And you can't go in, let's say 2 of those are in conflict. You can't go in and just change those 2 to a different room or a different time.
No, it won't let you because it's, yeah, so that's why I recommend doing shorter chunks like this.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the tricky part.
So
Whoops.
to that point, one of the things that is helpful to consider, Virginia, and just in general, a question, Katie, is because what's different than what we've been doing is that currently we have our branches booking to hold a room and then submitting the event separately. And in this case, they're putting them together at the branch starting point. So what I'm sort of checking on, my understanding is that as a program developer, as I'm proposing and putting in the event here, I see this, I go, here are my dates, and then I see something that says there's a conflict. am I able to move forward with my event, or I have to reconcile that issue first?
Is that a me question or the team question?
Well, it was a you question. I guess I was trying to clarify my understanding that you can move forward or you can't move forward with having a conflict.
So it will book all of the available spaces, but it won't book the not available space. So then what a library needs to do is like write down what the not available time was. And most likely what I would do is come back here to the event and I might click on this choose dates to exclude. So let's say that there was a conflict on Wednesday, May 14th. So I'm going to say, okay, then I'm going to exclude this date. I'm going to click on done. I'm going to publish this event. This is where it gets tricky. I'm going to publish this event. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make another baby story time for May 14th and pick the other open room. That's how libraries get around it. So I'd be something like this now. So here's baby story time. I'm going to click on make a copy. Bonus, you can copy upcoming events, past events. So here's baby story time. Let's say, okay, all right, May 14th was conflict. So I'm just going to do a single event here, May 14th. Pick my time. I already forgot what we said, but that's okay. Pick out our Ballard branch, do our registration. Looks great. I'll click on save. And then I will book a different room. So let's say now I'm going to book meeting room A because B is the one that had the conflict. And then, phew, I mean, it better be available. This is just a test site. So that's kind of the workflow that libraries have basically had to come to when they have the conflicts. So now you can kind of see where it's like shorter series, shorter instances might be a little easier to manage.
Wow.
Food for thought, huh, Virginia?
Yeah. So currently with Library Market, I actually do some workarounds. So it looks like I'm not going to be, let me tell you, so what I am able to do is sometimes I go in and create it and I don't choose a room. Is this, and then I go back and let's say the room needs to be changed for one instance to a different room. So, well, actually, let me tell you it's different scenarios, but let's say I do choose a room, one of them's a conflict. I can go back to that one and change that room. So I, change it to a different room and it's available. Am I going to be able to go back to single events to change it to a different room that's in the series that wasn't in this? You know what I'm trying to say?
I do know what you're trying to say. Yes, because I have lived this. Okay, so the answer is not really. So yeah, this is where it gets, this is the trickiest part of LibCal, I know. So here, let's say that, we have to change our baby's story time. So what I've done is I'm on the publish tab, I'm looking for the title. I'm gonna click on edit because I gotta edit the event. I want to edit all of the events, So then I can click on view booking. And then basically what I would need to do is cancel the room reservation and rebook it. So this is where it might be easier if you're running into conflicts that either, you do them more as like single events. So that way you can just adjust quickly or do them these shorter increments. So here, this is just kind of nice to see what this also looks like. Here I've canceled the LibCal booking. I didn't cancel the event. I'm just canceling the room. And so now I could come back here and book a different room if I had to. But you can see, it's the series, right? It's the whole series that I'm editing, not on an individual basis. So if that ends up being more of an issue, then I think some of those events I do as like a single event, basically.
And
Food
to
for
go
thought,
back,
I know.
yeah, and to go back, do you have to choose a room?
No, you don't have to pick a room.
Okay.
So like, for example, like, I could save this event right now, this baby story time. I haven't booked a room. I can click on save. I can publish it. So no room ended up being booked for this series. So you don't have to use it, but it is helpful because like now, staff can't see that there was a LibCal booking made because, we didn't make one. So
And
there
it
may
will
be,
be, I'm sorry, and it will be
no, go ahead.
it will be straightforward to the staff that they didn't choose a room. Because that
Yeah,
happens.
because you won't see comma, whatever the room name is.
Okay.
And if I go into edit again, you'll see like, oh, would you like to book a room for this event? Otherwise, this would have said like meeting room A. So they'll be
Oh,
able to see they didn't pick one.
okay.
Yeah, I see Jamie has their hand raised.
Yeah, sorry. This is more just a process question, I guess, for our team.
Yeah,
But
lay it out.
and Virginia, I think, kind of answered it too. But with all of these pieces in here, because we're moving from having one person do all of this to having our programmers enter their own information. Is that correct? So they'll be the ones struggling with their program conflicts for the most part.
Correct. And I think we'll talk to the branch managers a little bit more about troubleshooting that, but ideally, right, that they're facing this earlier as they're
Right.
thinking about their event. So we're not getting it on the, like Virginia, you're not carrying the weight of like the 15 times this happens multiplied by every branch, right? It's 15 times that happens within that one branch.
Thank you.
That individual. Yep.
Yep. Good questions. I'm so glad we're doing this as meeting style instead of webinar style, so y'all can ask these questions and chat about them. Okay, so we can come back to talking more about LibCal. There's a couple of other event reoccurrence patterns that I want to make sure I show you in case those bring up other questions. So let's do a different reoccurrence pattern. Let's do another story time example. So back on the event admin page, I'll click on create event. Let's do family story time. So here's family story time. Just like we've seen, pick out your event type. Let's say this one is good for babies and toddlers and preschoolers. Put in our cool description here. And let's say that family story time happens on like Tuesdays and Fridays. So here I'm going to set the date pattern to weekly, and that's where I can choose the day of the week. So I'll say Tuesday, and I can also say it happens on a Thursday. So that's a different type of date pattern. Then I can choose like how often this happens over the week schedule. Like, is it every 2 weeks? In this case, I'll just leave it set to every Tuesday and Thursday, so every week. Then I can pick out my date pattern. So let's say it's going to start, next week. So we could say Monday through the end of the month. When I used to do event entry at my library, I did about 300 events a month myself. So this is how I used to do it to save time. I could just, click May 29th as the final Thursday in the month, but often to save time, I would just, do these in chunks. Like, okay, I'll just let the day and time picker figure out all the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's a little thing that I used to do, but y'all will find what works best for you, and your colleagues will kind of find their own workflows. So with our family story time, let's say it happens at 11 to 11:30. We'll pick out our branch again. And then we'll do some more online registration. Let's say we can have 20 kiddos at this one. I want patrons to register for the individual session that works for them. So now I'm going to publish our family story time. So that's a different reoccurrence pattern. And let me show you what some of these look like too from the patron side. So family story time. So here's our family story time, May 13th. And then, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Let's look at what registration looks like for one of them too, just because we haven't seen that. So here we set that to individual registration. So if I were to click on register, then I could fill out my registration info. Okay, questions about that one?
And you can set up registration for anything you want to ask. Like we can add on things that we want on registration. Like if we have a custom question or something like that.
Not at the moment, but that's actually something we're kind of in the research phase about because so many libraries have asked us for that. Like, Yeah, how old are your kids? Do you have food allergies? Do you need accessible whatever? So we actually are working with libraries to kind of figure out what that's going to look like. So not at the moment, but the product team is working on it, which is awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
we do have custom questions that we need, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
what I've had libraries do in the past for kind of a workaround is they will build the form in BiblioWeb and then they'll put it in the description.
Hmm.
And then of course not all the patrons read the description. So unfortunately the admin usually will follow up and be like, hey, you didn't fill out the form. So that's an option. So that's what I've
Okay.
kind of seen libraries do in the meantime.
Okay. And speaking of description real quick, is there
Yeah.
a character limit? Like
Um,
we need to
I
I
mean,
need
like, not
to get some
really.
more people to shorten their descriptions because I don't think patrons read that much. So I didn't know if there was a character limit or
Nah, like some libraries will put pretty long ones in. Like this is a long one.
that's a long one.
That's a long one. So like I feel like I tested this once for like 10,000 characters and it was
Oh.
fine. So,
But I find, we find that, people don't read that far down, it's like, whoa.
exactly. So some libraries definitely have gone towards much more just kind of concise descriptions. You can kind of see like eventually it will cut off. I forget exactly what the character count is, but you will see ellipses if it's long. But like this one's great. Look at that. 3 sentences, 4 sentences, done. So kind of up to you. Make sure you put whatever you decide in that style guide though, right?
Right.
And Katie,
Yeah.
just to jump in, I remembered the templates you had shown me, where there's the option of like, if you did baby story time and you clicked on the template for it, it would populate some of that language. And so
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to remind folks what the language needs to be, including length, but also in the staff notes, we can put some descriptors. So while we internally know the length right from CMD and OCP, and have that final edit process, we can also give those indications to staff early on the onset so that they know to be more concise in their language within Biblio Commons or BiblioEvents.
Yep. Good idea. So speaking of templates, we'll just kind of segue into that one. So here's a fake template that I made for the training site. So you can see in this case, we put in a featured image. It's way too big, so ignore, but you can put in your own images. You can fill out what the event title is, pick the event type, pick the audience, pick the program. If it's held in another language, you can include that info. And then here, some libraries are trying to give staff some of those guidelines up front, like, here, choose which workshop you're hosting, delete the rest, make sure that capacity is set to 10. So then when staff apply this template, they've got the instructions. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to make this template active. I'm going to click on create an event, and then here's a drop down for all of the different templates or that are on this training site. So if I pick STEAM crafts for kids, you can see it filled out the title, all that type information, put in the image for me. Now I have my staff directions. So like, let's say we're doing scientist workshop. So I'll delete that, and then I can delete the staff directions. So this could be something that you consider too to help give them possible guidelines to follow. And then we'll just publish it or save it, whatever. Oh, I forgot to include the location. Hey, bonus, if you forget to do something like I did, your event won't save. You'll see like a little red box. It'll tell you what you forgot to do. So here we'll pick out our location. So yeah, that's the quick and dirty on templates though. Questions about templates?
I have a question real quick because about the location you just did.
Oh yeah.
Will do they have the option? We have some hybrid. Are you allowed to choose the location and indicate online for both?
So we've had some libraries ask for that. We haven't come up with a good solution on how to support hybrid events. So in that case, I would recommend doing an online version of the event and then this kind of physical version of the event. It's tricky though, because like I know it's hard to like, balance registration when you have two events going, but it's something that we've been talking about, but we don't have support for that yet.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Okay, let's go back to a couple of other date patterns, just so you can kind of see what those look like. So let's do another, oh, I see something in the chat. Yep, perfect. All right, so let's do like a book club. So let's say we have, wow, I cannot type today. Mystery book club. There we go. So let's say we have mystery book club. So it's our books and reading type. Let's say this one's for adults. Put in our description, join us for monthly book club. Got our cool description in there. One thing I'll show you real quick is how to add a title. So if you wanted to include the title that you're reading, like this month, we're reading, what's the title? The guest list. So what you do is you come over here, you hover over the book, it'll say title, you click on it. This integrates with the catalog. So if something is in your catalog, you can pull it through on this event. So let's do the guest list. All you do is click on search and then you can see all of the different titles. So I'll pick the Lucy Foley novel. I'll click on add to text. It adds the link for me. And then I can continue with my event description. Okay, so there's our mystery book club. So let's say that mystery book club is happening monthly. So maybe mystery book club happens on the 3rd, 4th. You can see all your different options there. Let's say it happens on the 3rd Thursday of the month. And you can add multiple days too, but for book club, probably happens on a reoccurrence pattern like this. Then you can pick your day. So let's say this is for, June, July, and August. I could click on the calendar icon and I'll just say, starting June 1 through the end of August. Again, this is how I used to save time to do it. You can go like, okay, the 3rd Thursday in August is the 21st, but I just like to let the date picker pick it out for me. Pick out our day and time. Let's say it's at 4 to 5. Pick out our branch. Fill out all our info. Do our registration. 24 people register individually, and then I can publish this event. So that one is just to kind of show you what that particular pattern looks like. Now let's say though that you're like, oh, wait a second, we're not reading the guest list 3 months in a row. So if you ever need to edit an event, you can search for it on either the publish tab, or if it's a new event or whatever, you just search for it. And then I'm going to click on edit. And let's say that, in July, we're going to read something else. I could just edit that event individually. And then I can come down here to the description and I can pick out a different book that we're reading. So I can click on title, Murder on the Orient Express. Perfect. Add to text. Add to text. There we go. And then I could save and republish this event. Questions about that? So now you can see Murder on the Orient Express. And here we have the guest list. Ta-da!
I have a question. I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to chat. I mean, how to
That's
wave
okay.
I can't figure out how to wave my hand.
That's okay. Unmuting yourself is totally fine.
So currently, this is my personal thing I try to get across to staff is I appreciate when we do a title and when it's clicked on, where we see all of the formats, the ebooks, audiobooks, and the foreign language. So the link, I mean, if they do it correctly, they can show all those formats. But the way I do it is you search in the catalog for you do an advanced, and you actually do the title and then the author. and it only shows up those, it could have up to 5 formats, and everybody, so they can see all those, the patron.
I
Do you
see,
want-
I see.
Can you?
In not with this one, no.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's just that
Sorry, I'm
added
asking-
title button.
I'm sorry, I'm asking questions.
That's okay.
It doesn't
I'd rather
work.
you, no, I'd rather you ask questions and I just disappoint you early. How about that?
I just like, especially the foreign language and the, you know,
Yeah.
books and the audio, then it's like, cool, this is in Spanish, cool, you know.
I mean, you could add additional titles to this. Like you could be like, you know, maybe we want to do something like this, put a separator in and be like, you know, whoops, let me put my cursor in the right spot. This title is also available in Spanish. So you could add multiple titles, but it does require you to each time click on
Click on it,
title.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know what the guest list is in Espanol, but we'll pick the audiobook CD
Well,
just for
you can
fun.
see there's an e-audio right there, so
Oh, perfect.
you know, so that would, you know, that's kind of what I'm indicating,
Gotcha.
is that they're able to see that with one click.
Oh,
So,
yeah, this one will require multiple clicks then, but
okay.
it is possible. I mean, so now it'll show up like this.
That's
So there'll be
okay.
so like you can, you can. The answer is
Oh,
just not a straight yes,
okay,
but that's okay.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's a good
Thank you.
question. Yeah, you're welcome. And I really recommend that libraries do this as much as you can. Because, like, what a way to promote your catalog, right?
Well, yeah, I like to do that for all that. You know, it's just, to me, we're showing them what we have, you know, a great collection of, you know, several formats. So,
Yep. And if you haven't seen what the bib page looks like, and maybe some of you haven't yet, if a patron clicks on the title, it'll take them to the catalog. Of course, the training site is slow today, but it will also show them all of the different formats right up top too. So generally I have libraries just putting in one title because their patrons know that they can see all the formats here, but your patrons, you know, may have gotten used to something different. So
true,
yeah.
but then you have to have that link. You know what I mean? Well,
It'll depending on like the format that you pick, actually
right.
the URL stays the same. So it's just always going to have this little
Oh,
item number here. So actually they're all kept on that same bib record.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
So you could use that link.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Cool, huh?
That's the one,
Yeah.
Katie, that's the one you used right at the beginning. So I think it will bring people here and might start at the book, but it will offer the other things, right? That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, they just have to click on it.
Yeah.
So like if I hadn't put this audiobook title in, we would just see the guest list. And when I click on it, it takes me here.
Oh, okay. I got you now. Okay.
Yeah. So like it's up to you if you want to include multiple titles. I don't know if you have to though.
You know, that does help though. Once they click on it, as long as they can see those other formats, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might end up, you know, tweaking this to say this title is also available in other formats. Click the title to see them.
Hmm.
You know, you can do that. You know,
And it would do
ta-da.
it would do the foreign language too. As far as
Depends how you end up
oh,
cataloging
okay.
things.
Okay.
I expect that like you know, let's see if this demo site has Harry Potter in a different language. I expect that the foreign language probably has a different item record number. Yeah, here, Harry Potter, I'm not even going to try and say it. This is a different item record than the English version. So,
Okay.
so that's a good point then. If you wanted to maybe showcase the Spanish language title in addition to the English one, I would do the added title twice. So then you can see both versions on the event. Yeah, that's what I would do. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, see, these are different bib item numbers. So yeah, good question. I
Okay.
love it. Good questions. Okay, we've got about 22-ish minutes left here. Let me show you a couple of other kind of things you might want to know how to do in events, so that way you can kind of take it away, think about it, sleep on it. Another type of event you might have is an event that has a really unusual reoccurrence pattern. So I'm going to click on create event. Let's pretend you're going to do a history fair over the weekend. History fair, the Titanic. How about that? Perfect. So we have a history fair coming. It's all about, I don't know, science and nature. History fair, the Titanic, tragedy. Put in our different audiences. Let's say it's for everyone. Great. Put in our description. And then let's say that history fair, the Titanic tragedy, is going to be on Saturday from 10 to 4. And then let's say it's going to be on Sunday at a different time. So you'll see add another. Click on add another, and it gives me another field to put in the next day and time. So let's say it's Sunday from, I don't know, 2 to 5. 2 to 5. Maybe it's on Monday too. Add another. So we'll say it's happening on Monday, the 12th, from 10 to 6. So that's another way that you can add multiple day and times to events. This works best if the event is the same, right? This is the history fair Titanic. You know, it's going to be the same thing every day. It just has different times. Let me just fill out the rest. There's our location. I'm going to click on save and publish. I'm going to go over here to the events instance, search for Titanic. And now here's our Titanic. Saturday, 10 to 4, Sunday, 2 to 5, Monday, 10 to 6. So that's like another kind of reoccurrence pattern that might come up. Questions about that one?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So,
It's okay, it lets me get a sip of water. Ask away.
currently for exhibits, you know, we can have exhibits run for 2 months.
Mhm.
So we can put, you know, the date it starts and the date it ends, and we can ignore conflicts. Are we in this for Biblio? Are we just going to exclude like holidays? Right now, I can just click a box that says ignore. Like,
Yeah, so basically, so let me go back over here to the publish tab and we'll click on Titanic. Actually, I'm kind of rethinking how I want to answer this for you. I think it's easier to show with a date pattern that's kind of happening over a long period of time. So let me actually build a different event for that. So we'll do like what you're saying, art exhibit. Art exhibit. So we got to fill out our stuff here. So let's say it's crafts. Let's say you're doing it for summer reading, summer fun. Got our audiences. Cool, great, everybody, fabulous. Awesome description. Okay, so let's say we have art exhibit fun, and we're going to have it through July. So we'll go July 1. Oops, happens daily, July 1 through the end of July. But we have the 4th of July. So, you know, let's pick that one. So here where it says choose dates to exclude, then it gives you the list of all the dates that your date pattern is picked, and you can just click the little checkbox for the day that you want to exclude, because like, let's say you're closed, then you just see the exclusion, and then you can publish the event. So does that kind of answer your question, Virginia, about how you can ignore particular dates, because like a holiday or whatever?
it does. I'm going to have to think. I cannot recall right this minute, but that means when we have exhibits and it's in a room that can be used for other things.
Oh,
Yes, that's where
I
I'm.
see. I see.
I can't think of a scenario now, but it does occur where
Yep.
you can have the exhibit, but then you'll have an event, not even associated with the exhibit.
I see. Yeah, that is a lot trickier because all you can do is exclude the day, but we can't exclude like a day and time when somebody has a reservation in that room.
Okay.
Well,
Yep.
Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. So in the LibCal side of this, the booking for that space would actually be related to the gallery wall versus the gallery room. So you would be if you were doing an event, art exhibit, gallery extravaganza, right, in the room, that would be reserving the gallery room for the July, whatever day that is. But then the
I
gallery
see.
wall itself would be a separate reservation. And so it wouldn't have the same conflict because they're two different quote unquote rooms, right? And
Yes.
the LibCal thinks of them.
If that's how you set up in LibCal, then yeah, you won't have a conflict there.
Right. And Julian, we'll just need to make sure that we have an individual for an exhibit. You know what I mean? When we set that up.
Yes, and that's how I've been setting it up. We'll walk through that.
Okay.
Now I might put a little wrinkle in your plans because I've seen where this can get confusing to patrons when you have really long reoccurring events because they end up staying at the top of the events feed. So I'm gonna show you this library, Charlotte Mecklenburg Library.
Yes, I'm just going to comment. I'm just going to comment that
Yeah.
that is an issue. They stay at the top all the time.
Yes, yes, they do.
And I get tired of looking at them, all those exhibits.
Yeah, it gets tricky. So this library sometimes does exhibits, but you can see like they have one-on-one Medicare support session. So this event started in January and goes through the end of the year. So this is the top. Now patrons sometimes get confused because what's today? May 9th, and they're like January 6th, like what? So you can see I have to scroll down a little ways to get to the upcoming May events. So I've kind of been like thinking about like for something like an exhibit, does it really make sense to count it as an event? Are there other ways that you might end up promoting something like now that you're going to get, a new website, we promote it differently there. You can promote it in the catalog. So that's something to kind of think about too. But yeah, for events that have those really long reoccurrence patterns, they're going to be at the top of the feed. So food for thought. Okie dokie. Let me pull up my notes here because I'm trying to think, are there any other scenarios that we kind of want to walk through? Oh, we haven't done an online event yet. Let's do one of those so y'all can see what that looks like. So I'm just we'll save this one as a draft. Whoops. Save it as draft. That'll work. Okay, so let's do an online event. Let's say you have a virtual author event. Say Emily Henry's coming. Again, we got to fill out our event types. We could say books and reading, pick out our audience. Maybe they're coming for summer reading again. Pick out our day, 3 to 4, doesn't really matter. Type in our cool description. Now for an online event, you'll see a little toggle here. So when you click on online event, it grays out the branch information. And now we have selected online event and the rest is the same. What does registration look like? 450, let's say, huge Zoom event. But I'm going to publish this one with the registration start a little different option just so y'all can see what that looks like. Maybe we want registration to open up for Emily Henry May 10th at 5 o'clock. And then I mentioned this how to prepare and how to attend field. For an online event, this is where you can put in the Zoom URL. So the how to attend field, any text that you put in this field is going to show up in the event reminder email, which is sent out 24 hours before the event begins. Now, any event that a patron registers for is also going to get a reminder email. So every event, if they put in their email, they get the reminder email 24 hours. For patrons who register for events, they'll also get a confirmation email. That usually comes within a few minutes of them registering for the event. So,
Katie,
yeah,
sorry,
no, you're good.
and in terms of talking about hybrid events,
Mhm.
what I'm wondering about is for that field or a different field, we could in just the email indicate, if you're joining us hybrid, here's the link,
Yeah.
join. And then we do have the ability to put tags, like custom tags. So we could technically have a tag that was hybrid, correct?
Oh, yes, you could. You could, but you can only, well, you could. The reason I'm kind of not answering you straight is there's a couple of things to think through. And the kind of thought process would be if you wanted to add a tag to it, like one of these categories here, would you make hybrid a program type, but then you can only ever have one program type added to an event. So like, let's say Emily Henry was coming for summer reading and you also had hybrid as an option. You can only pick one. Or would you do it as an event type? And you can have multiple event types on an event. So you could have hybrid and books and reading. So you just will kind of want to think through the pros and cons of both of those. So you can, yeah.
Trying to figure out the system until BiblioCommons helped us out. So
I know, right? That's a good question. So yeah, so that's a little bit of how the online event works. You can see this one has that registration now at a particular day and time. If I were to click on the event, I can't get around it. Registration opens at the day and time that we set. So that's what that looks like. We did all of pretty much the date picker examples here, reoccurring events. And oh, we haven't done a series one. So let's do a quick series event where you want folks to come to every event in the series. So if we did like Microsoft Word for beginners, pick out our type, pick out our audience. So let's say that Microsoft Word for beginners is, Tuesdays through the month of June. So I'm going to say weekly, set it to Tuesday. My start date is June. Again, I'm just going to let the date picker figure out my dates. In this case, if I know it's a 4-event series, oh, I thought this had 5 Tuesdays in June. Just kidding, we're good. All right, so we've got our day and time picker, got our time, 3:15 to 4:15. Super. I got our branch stuff. Great. Registration, we'll click online registration. Let's say we have 10 computers. And then here is where I would say patron is required to register for the full series. So they register for all 4 sessions. Now there's something a little different with when registration ends if it's a series like this. So there's an option where registration ends when the first event begins or at the start of the last event. Now, the difference between the two of these is you deciding if patrons have to go to session 1, so that way they're prepared for session 2, 3, and 4. So if it's vital that a patron goes to session 1, then you would say registration ends when the first event begins. Now, patrons would still see session 2, 3, 4, but they could not register for them. Now, if it's a little more open-ended, like, well, it doesn't matter that they didn't come to session 1, then you could say at the start of the last event, and somebody could end up registering for session 4, and skip session 1, 2, 3. So that's the difference between these two registration options. Yes, question.
Can you change this after the fact? Because we have programs where our staff are like, no, they absolutely must come to the first session. And then people miss the first session, but they want to come to the second session. And so the staff change their mind that they want them to be able to register any way along the series.
That is a good question. Editing registration after an event has started can be kind of tricky. I feel like I would need to build an event that's like in progress before I could fully answer this for you. I want to say though that we usually block how registration is set up once the event is already in progress, because it could, like, I just feel like that's the answer. But let me see if I can find the real answer in the partner portal real quick here. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a partner portal that has loads of documentation about everything. So like using BiblioEvents, here's a whole thing on event registration. I can look at this article about updating events with registrants, see if I can find the answer real quick. What can be changed or updated?
Yeah, as it is now, we have to basically make a new event and then re-register anyone
Yep.
that's already registered. It's
Yep.
it's
Yep,
tricky
it's
now.
tedious. Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, let's see here. We could not change. Oh, here we go. Okay, so if the event series was set to register for each individual session, you could change the capacity. Oh, wait, that's for capacity. I feel like the answer is no for some reason. I think because we lock down the registration. I'm going to make a note of that and I'll do like a little test just to make sure. Just to make sure though, let me make a note.
And it sounds like for this, either way, I mean, if it's a firm no, then that solves some of those things. But the other piece of it is that we can
Yeah.
put in the staff instruction. Right, we strongly recommend that you close it at the last rather than having a firm first. So that can be
Mhm.
both
That
in
might
our
solve
written
it.
instruction elsewhere, but also when it shows up in BiblioCommons.
Yeah, that might be the solution. Okay, I'm just making my note. If they don't register for sesh 1, can we change it later? Okay, so the answer is TBD, but I think no. Let me just check my notes here. We got a couple minutes left. I haven't had a chance to show you the reviewing permissions. So let me show you that. And then I'll show you the waitlist as well, because that's good to know how to do. So let's do the waitlist first. That one's a little faster. All right, so let me just create a new event here. We'll just do another author visit. Author visit, Stephen King. Perfect. We'll have it be on the 16th. Pick out our day and time. We'll have this one be online just to save time. Okay, so how do we turn on the waitlist? So when you're doing online registration, you can set your capacity, of course, like we've done. I'm going to set this to 1 so I can show you the waitlist. And then there's a checklist here that says turn on waitlist functionality. So now we have the waitlist turned on for this Stephen King event. I'm going to hop over here to the instance. We'll type in Stephen King. I'm going to register for Stephen King. So I'm going to fill out my info. Now, for patrons who are logged into BiblioCore, this information should populate. The only reason mine isn't is because I have access to everybody and I'm not actually registered at Pemberley District Library. So if a patron's logged in up here, their info will populate, which is cool. All right, so I'm going to click on complete registration. I'm going to get a confirmation email. And then let's take a look at this on the staff side. So here's Stephen King. You can see spots reserved 1 of 1. Nobody's on the wait list. Let me refresh this event so you can see the wait list now. Actually, I'll go back a screen so you can see it before I get there. So Stephen King. So here's Stephen King. It says registration full, join the wait list. So I'm going to join the wait list and fill out my info. I'm going to do a different email because it'll be like, no, you already registered. So let's do my old college email. So now I'm going to click on join the wait list. It says I'm now on the wait list. If I come over here and refresh Stephen King, what we'll see is 1 spot reserved, 1 spot waitlisted. Now I just heard my email chime. So let me show you a confirmation email and then what it looks like to cancel too from the patron side. All right, so here is my author visit for Stephen King. I'm going to cancel my registration. So BiblioCommons Katie is going to cancel. So cancel my registration. Oh, the training site hates me today. All right, we'll pretend it worked. Let me go into a little segue for you where you can manage people's registration. So here, if I click on the register tab, here's BiblioCommons Katie. Edit means like if I needed to change how many people I would bring with me for group registration, I can resend a confirmation email, or here I'm going to unregister. So I'm going to unregister BiblioCommons Katie. And then if I go back to the event listing, so y'all can see what this looks like. Now the spots reserved is set to 0. I still have one person on the wait list. What does it look like from the patron side? Well, it's still the wait list. Patrons cannot jump ahead of folks on the wait list. So even though we know that there is an opening, nobody can jump ahead because we need to manage the wait list. So one of the cool things you can do is when you like log on to BiblioEvents and you want to see if there are any folks that need to get moved off the wait list, you go to the Publish tab and then just click on the waitlist action required. Now this isn't a automatic process, it's still manual. So what I used to do is like every morning, the first thing I would do is, do this, take 5 minutes, look at the wait list. So then I can see, all right, I have one person on the wait list. I have an opening on the registration list. I can click on manage wait list, takes me to the wait list, and then I can say move to registered. And so now it's going to move Colorado Katie off the waitlist into registered. And you'll see a little note here that says move from waitlist. So you can click through all these different tabs, like here's me with my registration canceled. Nobody's on the waitlist. I can add folks to the waitlist from here though. If this was an event that didn't have the waitlist, you can also register people for an event here. It'll look just like this. So you do have that ability too. So that's the waitlist in a nutshell. Questions about that?
This may be a little bit of an issue. Can you have it for like one event where you don't have to go in and look like in the mornings and move someone up? It doesn't automatically move them.
Does not automatically move them. It's a manual process.
You can't do one and not the other. Okay.
It's
Well,
all manual.
Yeah, it's just always
Okay.
manual.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
definitely
gonna
something definitely something our partner libraries have asked for. So I know this is a contender for us to make happen.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, that's going to be a training, a training point for us
There you
is
go.
getting
Yeah.
people to move people from the wait list because the way we have it now is automatic.
Oh
So
no. That will be an adjustment. Yes.
yes. And we don't want to be in the position of managing 5,000 events a year and making sure that the wait lists are all managed.
Yeah, that's why like for staff who do have to manage the wait list, I would just have them kind of make it part of their day where once a day they just log into events, click on waitlist action required, and it just loads any events and they can just click on the wait list and click, click, click. So like when I used to have to do this, like I said, I just did it kind of first thing in the morning and it would take me less than 5 minutes to do every day. Okay, I know we're at time, but there's one other thing I want to show you, which is the reviewer permission roles. So if you have to run, no worries, I can talk to the empty room, but I do want to show you this particular setting. So I'm gonna log in as someone with really low event permissions. Gotta find those credentials. Okay. So the credentials I'm logging in with is just someone who has the ability to create events, but I cannot publish them. So here you can see I have a much more limited option in the admin menu, no locations access for me. So I click on events and the dashboard looks pretty similar, but you'll see I don't have the create template button, for example. So let me do a quick event here. So I'm going to say, kids book club, but I'm going to misspell book club on purpose so we can kind of walk through what this looks like. So here's my kids book club. I'm going to fill in all the info. Kids book club is tomorrow at 3:45. Add a branch. Cool. Okay, so here's my kids book club. Now you'll see I don't have the option to publish. I can only save my event or I can request publication. So let's say I'm ready to request publication. I can leave a note for the reviewer, and our kids book club is ready, and then I'll click on submit. So now kids book club is going to end up in the awaiting publication tab because I requested publication. But we all know there's a typo. So I'm going to log out and then I'm going to log in as BiblioKatie again because I have the ability to review. So my coworker alerts me that, hey, I've got an event that needs published. Can you publish it? I'm like, okay, let me log in. Click on events. I'm going to go to the awaiting publication tab. And I'm like, uh-oh, kids book club. So some libraries will edit the event themselves because they're like, I don't want to kick it back to staff. Others will send it back to staff. So this is kind of up to you to decide. But I'm going to click on edit and I can see they left me a note, but I know there's a big old typo here. So I have options. I can publish this event, which I don't want to. I also don't want to give it a thumbs up because there's a typo. So I'm going to request revision. And I'm going to say, you know, book club has a typo and it's 2 words. So I left them a note. Now I'm going to click on request revision. And so this event is not going to be ready for publication. And you can see it's no longer in this awaiting publication queue. It's back under new and revised. So here's our kids book club and it has this little tag revision requested. So now event creator Katie is going to log in and let me log in with those lower permissions. And I'm like, where's my event? Why isn't it published? So now as the creator, I log in and I'm like, oh, darn, here's my kids book club revision requested. I'm going to click on edit. I can see my thumbs down. Let me fix it. Kids book club. Oh my gosh, kids book club. So now I fixed it. I can click on save. I can re-request publication. You know, typos fixed. And then I'll click on submit. Alrighty. So I'm going to log back out. And now event reviewer Katie is going to log in. I'm like, awesome. Did they make those edits to the event? Let me check. So I'm going to go on awaiting publication. Here's my kids book club. I'm going to click on edit. I can see they fixed the typo. Looks great. So now I can, you know, publish this event, or if we're not ready to publish our events, you know, because we're a little early, then I would click on mark as reviewed. And now this event has been reviewed. And so now it has this tag right here. So reviewed means ready for publication. So that's basically the reviewer workflow here. So then whoever's publishing your events could come to this awaiting publication tab, be like, awesome, Teen Book Club reviewed, publish. Tween Book Club reviewed, publish. And so that's their clue that these are ready. Question, I see you in the chat, Jamie, or the hand raised. Go ahead.
Is there an option to poke people if they don't see that they need to edit their stuff?
No, there's no option for that.
So if I can jump in here, just in terms of what our program process will be versus kind of what's offered here. I think one of the things that Katie and I talked about, because I was very excited about this and then kind of trying to figure out what that means for permissions, because we're asking the program creator, developer to be the ones who are entering it in. And even if it was someone else, it goes back to that person who created it, not like the branch manager or anyone else in the cycle. And so Reich will still be used for those communication pieces, simply because otherwise, if we're utilizing this one, like you said, Jamie, we can't, or like Katie said, we can't poke people. So we want to have reminders. But 2, it wouldn't necessarily go to the appropriate level of ownership. What I do see this as being useful for is for branch managers who might be poking their program developers to do exactly what Katie showed us, right? Hey, you didn't check the room reservations, and I'm noticing there's a conflict, or there's 15 typos, or your dissertation on book clubs is far too long for description. Let's cut it down to 20 words. But that level of oversight that we're integrating into the process can happen if that's useful for the branch managers to utilize this particular feature.
Oh, yes, you're right. Good point. Jamie, thumbs up. Okay, cool. Okay, I know we're 8 minutes over time, so really, really fast. I'm gonna show you just like 2 more things. And then I'll let you all go so you can absorb all the things today. So just to show you a couple of things on the archive tab, for example, if you all want to keep track of your registrants, like how many people came to chemistry and you, when you are looking at the archive tab, you'll see report, and then you can type in the number of attendees that came to an event. You just click on save. If you ever needed to look at registrants for a past event, you'll see a link there. I have the ability to delete because I have high permissions, but I like to showcase this make a copy because sometimes templates are great. Sometimes they might, maybe you don't want to make a template for everything, but maybe you had an event like 6 months ago that you're bringing back. So that's where make a copy is really helpful. On the Publish tab, you'll see slightly different options here. Preview is going to let you preview the event so you can see what a patron's going to see. You can also add attendance here to published events, but most libraries do it on the Archive tab after the event has happened. Here's where you can cancel events. Now, canceling events, unpublishing events, deleting events does require someone to have higher levels of permission, so definitely check out the BiblioEvents permission article in the partner portal. But if I wanted to cancel History Fair, the Titanic Tragedy, since this one's a series, I can cancel the individual event or I could cancel the whole series. I'll just do this one for now so you can see what that looks like. It has a little red canceled flag next to it. If I wanted to feature an event, there's a little featured event link. You just click it. It'll add a little bookmark here. And then on the patron side, now you can see Books and Tea Brews Book Club is now a featured event. So that's another option that kind of lives in this action section. So I want to make sure I got those covered. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Hi, Katie. Could you show me what the archived report looks like when you download this? And
Yeah.
so if you have like an event that requires registration, when you archive these events, does it produce into the report the registrants' names?
Not into the report, no. But it will have a field that basically says like registration was
Required, but it doesn't contain the patron name.
Does not contain the patron name. So
Okay.
if you wanted to get that info though, you could click on view registrants, and this one doesn't have any, but you would there is a way that you can see all of the past registrants. So you could do it on an individual basis if you're like, oh, I need to email everyone from chemistry and
So those
May.
lists, those registrant lists are
Mhm.
archived though for 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I can show you what an export looks like too. Like, let's just
Great.
do, I'm trying to find a short one. Let's see here. Let's do books and reading. Here we go. So let's say we needed to export all of the books and reading past events. Let's do from January. So it's not such a huge report. Perfect. Okay. So then you just click on export list, pick out your file. I'll do Excel. And then Excel will load. There we go. Not that one, this one. So here you can see the title, start and end date, description, who made it, your types, what did it have a program associated with it, is it an online event, here's the registration, here, so true means that it was enabled. On this one, we did not have registration enabled, so it'd be blank. So it'll basically export all of the fields that you fill out when creating an event. Like even the staff notes can be exported. So does that kind of help you see it too? Yep. Awesome. Super. Okay. Cool.
Hi, Katie. Can I ask a quick question?
Of course you can.
I wish I could figure out how to raise my hand. Is there a quick way for staff to add their attendance really quick after the event?
The fastest way is for them to go into archived and probably just type in the title. Oops, like chemist. Oh my gosh, I cannot type today. And now my event instance hates me. It's fine. The quickest way for them is to go into archive, type in the title, click on the report button, and then they can add the attendance.
Okay, from the report.
Oh my goodness, my event site crashed. Good thing we're at the end of training. Other questions I can answer for you.
I have a quick one, I think.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm looking at Snow Isle, and
Yeah,
because
let's look at Snow
they, you have event type and you have program.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's
I'm
a
listening.
lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's a lot of on the event type and program. That's just a lot of stuff. I'm just used to having one program type. Well, you are
Mhm.
having issues, aren't you?
I know. And you know what it is? I screen capped it because it's super rare and it only happens to me. Sometimes the computer thinks I'm in Denmark and then it blocks me. So that's what's happening today, which is fine. It's Friday. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Oh my goodness, you are having.
It's only me. It just happens to me. Okay, well, I'll stop screen sharing and I'll turn my camera back on. So yes, Snow Isle does have like lots of event types, lots of program types.
Can you hide? We only have one, right? Currently, it's only program type. And when I look at Snow Isles, I'm like, wow, this is confusing.
Mhm.
I don't mean to be, I'm not harping on
No, it's
them.
okay. I'm not going to tell them.
You
They already launched. They're not my problem.
have to have both on there, or can you hide one? Which I don't know if we'd want it. It's just a general.
This will partially answer your question. So let's say that you have summer reading as a program type, Black History Month, Women's History Month. If you don't have any events published for a program type or even an event type, we'll hide it. So if you had 0 Pride History Month events, then Pride History or Pride Month is hidden. So if something's not published to it, you won't see that term. So that will kind of help reduce.
Yeah,
But the
okay.
other thing I'll say too is like, I'm glad you're thinking about that because patrons, we want to give them enough choices so they can make decisions, but we don't want to overwhelm them with the
Right.
number of choices. So I don't know what the happy medium is, but like you all probably have a sense of like, that's too many. So
Yeah.
tuck that in mind. But
This-
the other
this
thing
is a
that,
lot.
yeah, it's a lot. The other thing that Julie and I have talked a little bit about is taxonomies, because the taxonomies that are going to be developed for web, there is some good overlap between the event topics and what we call in web as just the topics. So like, for example, you could have a web taxonomy for genealogy, and that's like your genealogy databases, blog about it. But then you could have genealogy events, right? So a lot of times there's overlap, and how many terms you have in web could also help determine how many you end up with in
Okay.
events. So that
Yeah.
might help set some framework for you. Yeah,
Mhm.
see, Julian's nodding. Julian knows.
Okay.
We'll talk about those things that I'll be workshopping
Sure.
when we get into the staff side of it. But I agree, Virginia. I think we're looking at how do we make this clean and start simple, because we can always build. It's much harder to take
Yes.
away once it's there.
Yes, absolutely. You can. That's a great point for sure.
People hold on to it, right? So we want to start.
They will. And then they'll be like, you took it away. What happened to it? So yeah. Yeah. So I know we're totally over time. So I'm just going to show you in the slide deck. I have a bunch more slides that you can kind of go through that cover like, what I talked about today. How do you get into the event settings? Here's some examples of different program types. Here's how some libraries do their audiences. And then you can kind of see like how many numbers there are for different things. It goes through like, what is an event type versus more of a program type? I've linked the documentation. I've included screenshots of like all of the things that I covered today, like here's the different reoccurrence pattern options. So if you don't want to rewatch the recording, hopefully these slides really show you like all the things that we talked about today. So I want to say I'll get you the slides too, so you can take it and run. But other last minute questions I can answer without needing to demo since my training site bailed on me this Friday afternoon. No? Okay. So next steps then are y'all will sleep on it, get together as a team. Let me know if you have any questions. Julian and I meet weekly. So if there are questions that come up that, pass them on to Julian, and then we can chat about it and get you some answers. Perfect.
And we'll
Okay.
find some time. I know Janet and Virginia will have some time to talk between the two of us. I'll talk to Justin and Alicia about maybe bringing the group back together for a larger discussion. But as Katie said, let me know what questions occur. If you're feeling like you're comfortable and there's not a whole lot, well, that'll be also a determining factor of meeting time. But I know Virginia will want to loop you fully in and get some training and then get us thinking about how we train others. So
Yeah,
it
maybe
comes-
make like a couple test events too. Like, here's some story times. How does this work? Here's the book clubs. How does this work? Just to really get your hands on it. But yeah. All right. Game plan made.
and thank you, Katie, for the time and walking us through that.
No problem. It's nice to see/meet all of you. And I might see you on a call in the future again someday. So y'all have a good Friday, and I'll talk to y'all later. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Katie.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.